Have you ever found yourself oddly empathizing with an anime antagonist, even when you know they're wrong? That gut feeling isn't accidental. Today we're peeling back the layers on why characters like Madara or Madara Uchiha resonate so deeply, exposing the motivations and tragic circumstances that blur the lines between right and wrong, and challenge the very definition of a villain. When most stories introduce a villain, they make it easy. The hero is good, the villain is bad. The audience knows where to stand. But anime, at its best, does something completely different. It gives the antagonist a reason. Not an excuse, a reason. Think about how iconic antagonists viewers initially hated, then slowly started to understand. Characters like Pain from Naruto, who doesn't just want destruction for fun, he wants a world that stops repeating the same cycle. Or Miru from Hunter x Hunter, who begins as a literal embodiment of domination, but through his character arc, starts to develop awareness. And that's the moment the story changes, because the villain stops being a simple obstacle and starts becoming a mirror that reflects the hero, the world, and sometimes us. But before we go deeper, comment the antagonist you hated at first but ended up respecting. Here's the biggest difference between a forgettable villain and a legendary antagonist. The legend doesn't want world domination, they want a solution. And they believe the world forces them to become a monster to get it. When you break down most great antagonists, their motivations usually fall into a few categories. Some want protection, because they lost something and refuse to lose again. Some want revenge, because pain demanded an answer. Some want control, because chaos traumatized them. Some want revolution, because the system feels so broken, burning it down feels like mercy. And some want recognition, because being invisible for too long can turn a person into a storm. This is why antagonists like Eren Yeager hit people so hard. Even without getting into spoilers, his path is full of fear, survival, and belief that extreme choices are the only choices left. His story isn't about being evil, it's about what happens when someone believes the world leaves them no humane options. And then there's Griffith from Berserk, a different type of motivation entirely. Not survival, but ambition. A dream so powerful it becomes sacred. And that's what makes it terrifying, when ambition stops seeing people as people and starts seeing them as steps. Most villains don't flip a switch, they slide. Their choices become a chain reaction. One compromise, then another, until the person they used to be feels like someone else's memory. So here's the uncomfortable question. If you lived their life, with their losses, their world, their pressure, would your decisions be so different? Or would you arrive at the same exact conclusion? This is where anime becomes emotionally unfair, in the best way, because once you understand a villain's pain, your brain does something automatically. It starts connecting dots. And the moment you can explain someone's behavior, they stop feeling like a monster and start feeling like a warning. A lot of antagonists are shaped by trauma, grief, betrayal, systematic injustice, being powerless for too long. And the story doesn't always show these things to excuse them. It shows them because it wants you to ask a harder question. What if you're not immune to becoming this? Now let me be clear, understanding isn't forgiveness. Empathy is not approval. You can recognize someone's suffering and still condemn the choices they made. But once you've seen the suffering, it gets harder to keep your morality neat and simple. That's why certain antagonists hit deeper than others. Because they don't just scare you, they make you feel something you didn't want to feel. And sometimes, the most chilling part isn't what they do. It's the fact that a small part of you understands why they do it. I'm sure you have one. So in the comments, name one villain whose backstory actually got to you. Now we get to the most fascinating part, the moral compass shift. Because some antagonists don't think they're villains at all. They think they're the only ones willing to do what's necessary. The scariest villains are rarely chaotic. They're consistent. They have a principle, and that principle slowly mutates into permission. Here's a simple way to spot moral drift in a great antagonist. First, they have a principle. Something noble sounding. Peace, justice, freedom, safety. Then comes the justification. They start saying things like, "This is the only way," or "The world forced me," or "If I don't do it, someone worse will." And finally, the line crossed. The moment they do something they can't undo, and instead of stopping, they adapt. They rewrite their identity around it. That's also why hero and villain often feel like two sides of the same coin. They might want the same outcome, peace, freedom, safety, justice, but they choose different methods. The hero draws a line and refuses to cross it. The antagonist draws the same line and steps over it, because they believe morality is a luxury the world can't afford. So here's a poll for you. Which antagonist had the most compelling version of justice, even if you still think they were wrong? Comment their name, and in one sentence tell me why. This is why complex antagonists stick with us, because they don't just fight the protagonist, they fight the audience. They force conversations that don't end when the credits roll. They make people argue, analyze, defend, condemn, and rethink. Not because people love evil, but because people love questions. Questions like, what's justified? What's unforgivable? And who gets to decide? And the reason anime villains hit especially hard is because the medium commits. It gives them philosophy, it gives them symbolism, it gives them moments of humanity that feel almost cruel because you didn't want to relate. And beyond the screen, there's something real here too. In real life, conflict is rarely black and white. People carry history, pain, fear, and beliefs that shape what they think is necessary. Stories like these train us to recognize complexity without surrendering accountability. So here's the final question. Who's your favorite complex antagonist, and what made them resonate? Was it their motive, their tragedy, or the terrifying way their logic made sense? Because the best villains aren't the ones you hate, they're the ones you understand, and you wish you didn't. For the two people who watch this, if you want, I'll make this a series, starting with Meruem, Pain, or Madara next. Comment which one you want first, like and subscribe, and until next time, stay reserved, stay otaku.